Smile, the woman hissed under her breath. People are watching. Elara Moore kept her eyes on the floor. The marble beneath her shoes was polished so clean it reflected the chandeliers above, golden, heavy, obscene. She could see her own shape in it if she looked closely. Wide shoulders. Soft stomach. Thick thighs pressed together like they were apologizing for existing. She didn't look. Her hands trembled around the tray she was holding. Crystal glasses. Champagne so expensive she could smell the difference. Dry, sharp, untouchable. "Did you hear me?" The woman beside her snapped, lips still curved in a public smile. "Smile. Or you'll ruin the atmosphere." Elara nodded once. She did not smile. "Before we continue, if you're already feeling the story in your chest, pause for 1 second. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Comment, and tell us where you're watching from. Because what's coming next isn't romance yet. It's pressure. Now, let's continue. The ballroom of the Ardent Grand Hotel was already full. Men in tailored suits that cost more than her rent for a year. Women wrapped in silk and diamonds, their laughter light and careless, like nothing had ever broken them. This was not her world. It never had been. She was here because the catering company was short-staffed. Because rent was due in 6 days. Because her mother's medication had run out again. Because saying no had never been a luxury she could afford. Elara. She flinched at her name. Her supervisor, Maribel, stood near the service doors, arms crossed, eyes sharp with irritation. She gestured with her chin toward the center of the room. "Table 12 needs refills. And don't linger. We're already getting looks." Elara swallowed. "Yes." As she moved through the crowd, the room seemed to part around her, not politely, but instinctively. Like people moved away from heat, or something that made them uncomfortable. She caught fragments of conversation. "Must be a mistake. They really hired her? So brave, honestly. Brave." That word always landed like an insult dressed as praise. At table 12, a woman with razor-sharp cheekbones glanced up, eyes flicking over Elara's body with open disdain. Her gaze lingered, assessing, weighing, dismissing. "Careful," the woman said loudly to her friends. "If she trips, we'll all drown." Laughter followed. Soft, amused. Practiced. Elara's fingers tightened around the tray. Her knuckles went white. "I'm sorry," she murmured, voice barely audible. She poured carefully, precisely. She had learned how not to spill. Learned how to make herself small even when her body refused to cooperate. As she stepped back, her elbow brushed the table. Just barely. A single glass wobbled. Tipped. Champagne spilled across a man's sleeve, navy blue, perfectly pressed. Silence hit the table like a slap. The man stared down at his arm, then up at her. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he demanded. I'm sorry," Elara said quickly. She reached for a napkin, hands shaking now. "I didn't mean." "Do you have any idea how much this suit cost?" he snapped, standing. Chairs scraped. Heads turned. Heat flooded her face. Her ears rang. "I can pay for the cleaning," she whispered, already knowing she couldn't. That was when the woman from before laughed. "Oh please," she said, waving a manicured hand. "On what salary?" More laughter. Louder now. "Curious. Hungry." Someone nearby raised a phone. Elara felt something inside her fold in on itself. "I'll get my supervisor," she said, backing away. Her foot caught on the hem of her dress. She stumbled, just enough to draw another ripple of amusement. "Careful," someone else said. "Gravity's already doing its job." That one hurt more than the rest. She turned and fled toward the service corridor, vision blurring. She didn't let herself cry until the door swung shut behind her. The corridor was dim, narrow. The smell of bleach and metal replaced perfume and wealth. Her breath came out in sharp, broken bursts. She pressed her back against the wall and slid down until she was sitting on the cold tile floor, tray abandoned beside her. Her chest ached like something was tearing loose. She covered her mouth with her hand, swallowing the sound. She had learned that too, how to break quietly. After a moment, footsteps echoed. Maribel appeared, heels clicking, expression tight. "What happened?" she demanded. Elara looked up at her. Her eyes were red. She didn't bother hiding it. I spilled, she said. I'm sorry. Maribel exhaled through her nose. You can't afford mistakes tonight. Do you know who's here? Elara shook her head. Martin Vale, Maribel said. He's funding the entire charity wing. The press is everywhere. Billionaires don't like scenes. I didn't mean to cause. I know, Maribel cut in. Her voice softened, just slightly. But intention doesn't matter here. Presentation does. She glanced at Elara's body, then quickly away. Stay in the back for now, she said. I'll handle the table. Elara nodded. She stood slowly, smoothing her dress with hands that still shook. As Maribel walked away, Elara leaned against the wall again, eyes closed. Martin Vale. The name brushed against something in her memory. Not fame. Not headlines. A hospital room. A man sitting alone. Hands clasped so tightly his knuckles had gone pale. She opened her eyes. No. Not now. She pushed the thought away and picked up her tray. Across the ballroom, unseen, a man stood near the balcony doors. Martin Vale didn't laugh. He hadn't since he arrived. He watched the room with the detached calm of someone who owned it without needing to prove it. His suit was dark, understated. No flashy cufflinks. No loud presence. Power didn't need decoration. He had noticed her the moment she walked in. Not because of her size. Because of the way she held herself, as if she were bracing for impact that never quite came. As if she already knew how this room would hurt her. When the glass spilled, he had seen her face. The exact moment something broke. He felt it in his chest like a dull echo. Martin turned to the man beside him. Who is she? The man blinked. Who? The server, Martin said quietly. The one who just left. His associate glanced over. Shrugged. No idea. Staff. Martin's jaw tightened. Staff. He took a step forward, then stopped himself. Not yet. Elara finished the night in the kitchen. No more trays. No more eyes. Just the hum of industrial refrigerators and the ache in her feet. She scrubbed counters long after they were clean. Kept her head down. Counted the minutes until she could leave. When the event ended, she slipped out through the back entrance into the cool night air. The city hummed around her. Cars. Laughter. Lives in motion. She pulled her jacket tighter and started walking toward the bus stop. She didn't notice the black car idling at the curb. Not until a voice said her name. Elara Moore. She froze. No one here knew her. She turned slowly. A man stood beside the car. Tall. Composed. His face was calm, but his eyes held something heavier. I'm sorry, she said, instinctively. If I did something. No, he interrupted gently. You didn't. He studied her for a moment, then added, Do you remember me? Her breath caught. The hospital room came rushing back. The quiet grief. The man who had sat beside a bed and stared at nothing for hours. She nodded once. Yes. Martin Vale exhaled. Good, he said. Because there are things we need to talk about. She looked at him, standing there in the glow of the streetlight, billionaire and stranger and something else she couldn't name. Fear curled in her stomach. Why? She asked. His gaze softened, just a fraction. Because, he said, what happened tonight shouldn't have. A pause. And, because this world is going to hurt you again. Another pause. If you let it. Elara did not get into the car. Not at first. She stood on the sidewalk with her hands clenched inside her jacket sleeves, the city rushing past like it didn't care who broke tonight. The black sedan idled quietly, expensive enough to look unreal in the dim streetlight. Martin Vale waited. He didn't rush her. Didn't open the door himself like some performance of gentleness. He simply stood there, coat unbuttoned, eyes steady. I'm not getting fired for this, Elara said finally. If Maribel finds out I talked to a guest, I won't tell her, Martin replied. And I'm not asking you to do anything you don't want to. She laughed once. It came out sharp. That's easy to say when you're you. He nodded. Yes, it is. The honesty disarmed her more than reassurance would have. A bus roared past, wind whipping her hair into her face. She pushed it back, tired. What do you want? She asked. Martin considered the question. Then, To make sure you get home safely. And to talk. Somewhere quieter. Silence stretched. Elara looked at the ground. At her shoes, scuffed and worn thin at the soles. 5 minutes, she said. That's all. He opened the door. The inside of the car smelled like leather and something faintly familiar, cedar, maybe. She sat stiffly, hands folded in her lap, as if afraid to touch anything. They didn't speak for a block. You didn't say anything at the hospital, Martin said eventually. Her head snapped up. You didn't want to talk. That's not true. You were grieving, she said simply. His throat tightened. He nodded once. I didn't know who you were, she continued. You never said. No, he said. I didn't. And you listened, she said. That was enough. They stopped at a red light. The city reflected in the windshield, fractured and glowing. You shouldn't have been treated like that tonight, Martin said. Elara stared straight ahead. That's life. That's cruelty. She shrugged. Same thing. He glanced at her. Really looked. The words sat heavy between them. He drove her home without asking for an address. She noticed that only when they turned onto her street. You remember, she said quietly. Yes. The car pulled to a stop in front of her building, a tired brick structure wedged between a laundromat and a pawn shop. One light flickered in the stairwell window. She reached for the door handle. Elara, Martin said. She paused. What happened at the hospital, he continued, voice low, meant more to me than you know. She turned back. I didn't do anything special. You stayed, he said. Everyone else left. Her chest tightened. That doesn't make me a hero, she said. It just makes me someone who couldn't afford to walk away. He didn't argue. Good night, Mr. Vale, she added, already pulling the door open. Martin, he said. She hesitated, then nodded once. Good night, she said again. She walked away without looking back. The days that followed did not soften. They sharpened. Elara's shifts were cut. Not officially, no one said it was punishment, but suddenly she was scheduled less. The looks from coworkers lingered longer. Whispers followed her into rooms. She embarrassed us. Heard a guest complained. Always something with her. She kept her head down. At home, her mother watched her with quiet concern from the couch, blanket pulled tight around her thin shoulders. You're losing weight, her mother said one evening. Elara smiled faintly. No, I'm not. Her mother didn't smile back. Bills piled up on the kitchen counter. Red stamps. Final notices. At night, Elara lay awake listening to the building breathe, pipes groaning, neighbors arguing, sirens in the distance. And sometimes, uninvited, Martin Vale slipped into her thoughts. Not the billionaire. The man in the hospital chair, eyes hollow, hands clenched like he was holding himself together by force. She hated that she remembered him that way. They crossed paths again a week later. She was leaving the grocery store with 2 small bags when a familiar car eased to the curb. She stopped walking. The window lowered. Elara, Martin said. May I? She sighed. You're persistent. I'm concerned. That's worse. A corner of his mouth lifted. Fair. She got in. This time, she didn't feel like she was trespassing. They drove without destination, city lights blurring past. He asked about her mother. About work. About nothing and everything. She answered carefully. He did not offer money. Did not offer solutions. That, too, disarmed her. You don't belong where you're standing, she said suddenly, surprising herself. He glanced at her. And where is that? Here, she said. With me. In this car. You're out of scale. Scale is relative, he said. She shook her head. No, power isn't. Silence settled again. When he dropped her off, he didn't ask to come in. He never did. The pressure mounted quietly. Maribel called her into the office one afternoon, lips pressed thin. There have been complaints, she said. Elara stood, hands clasped. About what? Your attitude, Maribel replied. Your presence. Elara laughed under her breath. That's vague. Don't be difficult. I'm not being difficult, Elara said. I'm being myself. That seems to be the problem. Maribel's eyes hardened. This isn't personal. It always was. You're on probation, Maribel said. One more incident and we'll have to let you go. Elara nodded. Understood. She walked out feeling smaller than ever. That night, she didn't answer Martin's message. Or the next. And the next. She told herself she was protecting herself. The gala invitation arrived 2 weeks later. Gold lettering. Heavy cardstock. A charity masquerade hosted by Vale Holdings. Her name was printed clearly. Elara Moore. +1. She stared at it for a long time. Her phone buzzed. Martin, I know this puts you in a difficult position. She didn't reply. Martin, you don't have to come. She folded the invitation and set it aside. Martin, but if you do, you won't be alone. That night, she dreamed of laughter echoing off marble walls. She decided to go. Not because of him. Because of the looks she would get if she didn't. Because fear had already taken enough from her. The dress she bought was simple. Black. Clean lines. No apology in the fabric. She stood in front of the mirror before leaving, breathing slowly. You're allowed to take up space, she whispered to her reflection. Her reflection didn't answer. The masquerade was worse than the last gala. Masks hid cruelty. Amplified it. Eyes followed her as she entered. Whispers slipped through silk and champagne. Someone laughed openly. She's bold, a voice said. I'll give her that. Elara walked forward anyway. Martin found her near the edge of the room. He looked different. Tense. I didn't think you'd come, he said. I didn't come for you, she replied. He nodded. I know. They stood together, not touching. That was when she saw her. Lydia Crane. Tall. Elegant. Masked in silver. Her eyes locked onto Martin with familiarity, and something darker. She crossed the room with purpose. Martin, Lydia said, voice smooth. You didn't tell me we'd have company. Her gaze slid to Elara, sharp and assessing. This is Elara, Martin said. Lydia's smile thinned. Oh. You. Elara felt the room tilt. They knew each other. The secret she had pushed down clawed its way back up. The hospital room. The argument she had overheard. The woman who had left without looking back. Her pulse roared in her ears. Lydia extended a gloved hand. Charmed. Elara took it. The squeeze was deliberate. Painful. So nice of you to join us, Lydia said softly. These events can be overwhelming. Elara met her gaze. I'm managing. Lydia smiled wider. Oh, she said. We'll see. The trap had been set. Elara didn't see it yet. But Martin did. And for the first time in years. He was afraid. Lydia Crane did not leave Martin's side after that. She stayed close in a way that looked effortless to anyone watching, her hand resting lightly on his arm, her laughter timed perfectly, her body angled as if it belonged there. As if it had always belonged there. Elara felt it immediately. The shift. The room didn't just watch her anymore. It watched them. She stood 2 steps behind Martin, glass of water untouched in her hand, spine straight, shoulders back. She had learned how to stand when she expected to be judged. Chin up. No flinching. No shrinking. Still, she could feel it, the comparison happening silently around her. Lydia, all sharp edges and control. Elara, soft where the world said softness was a failure. Do you remember the Zurich deal? Lydia was saying, eyes never leaving Martin's face. The one that nearly collapsed because you refused to play along? Martin's jaw tightened. I remember. I saved you, Lydia said lightly. You forget that. Elara looked at Martin then. Not for the words, but for the pause before he answered. I didn't forget, he said. But he didn't say thank you. Lydia noticed. Her gaze flicked to Elara again, lingering this time. And you, Lydia said, turning fully toward her. What do you do, Elara? The question was casual. The intent was not. Elara felt heat crawl up her neck. I work in hospitality. Lydia hummed. Of course. Martin stepped in. She also takes care of her mother. Alone. Elara's breath caught. She hadn't told him that in detail. Not enough for him to say it like that. Lydia's eyebrow arched. How noble. The word landed wrong. A man nearby laughed. Another woman leaned in, whispering something that made her friend smirk. Elara felt the familiar pressure behind her eyes. She took a step back. Excuse me. She didn't wait for permission. She moved through the crowd quickly, mask pressing uncomfortably against her face, breath shallow. The balcony doors were open. Cool air rushed in as she stepped outside. She gripped the railing, staring down at the city below. Lights everywhere. Lives stacked on top of each other. A door opened behind her. She didn't turn. You shouldn't let her get to you, Martin said. Elara laughed softly. You mean the woman who knows your past, your business, your power, who everyone in that room respects? She faced him now. Or the woman who looks at me like I'm a mistake that wandered into the wrong equation? Martin's expression darkened. Lydia doesn't define you. No, Elara said. But she can destroy me. He didn't deny it. That silence was heavier than any insult. She left you, Elara said quietly. Martin stiffened. I heard her, Elara continued. At the hospital. The night your brother. Don't, he said sharply. She stopped. I didn't mean. She walked away, Martin said, voice tight. Because she decided grief was inconvenient. Elara nodded. And now she's back. Yes. And she hates me. Yes. Martin exhaled slowly, hand curling around the railing. That makes you dangerous. Elara blinked. To her. To everything she thinks she controls, he corrected. The door opened again. Lydia stepped out, mask in hand now, eyes cool. There you are, she said. Martin, the board is asking for you. Her gaze slid to Elara. Alone. Martin didn't move. I'll join you shortly, he said. Lydia's lips pressed together. This isn't the time for distractions. Elara felt something snap. I'm not a distraction, she said. Lydia turned fully toward her. No, Elara repeated, voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. I'm a person. A beat. Then Lydia smiled. Of course you are, she said. That's what makes this unfortunate. She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. You don't belong here, Lydia said. And eventually, Martin will remember that. Elara met her gaze. You're afraid. Lydia laughed. Of you. No, Elara said. Of losing. Lydia's smile faltered for half a second. It was enough. She straightened. Enjoy the evening. She walked back inside. Elara's legs shook once Lydia was gone. Martin watched her carefully. Are you okay? No, Elara said. But I will be. He reached out, then stopped himself. Come with me, he said instead. Where? Somewhere they can't hear us. She hesitated. Then nodded. The room they ended up in was small and quiet, one of the private lounges reserved for donors. The door closed softly behind them, muting the noise of the party. Elara sank into a chair. Martin remained standing. This isn't fair to you, he said. She looked up. None of this ever is. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration bleeding through his control. Lydia and I were supposed to announce our engagement tonight, he said. The words hit like a physical blow. Elara's chest tightened. I see. We didn't, he continued. Because I ended it. Her head snapped up. Tonight? 3 weeks ago. The room felt too small suddenly. She doesn't accept endings, Martin said. She negotiates them. Elara stood. Then why am I here, Martin? Because I didn't expect to feel this, he said quietly. And because she saw it the moment you walked into that gala. Elara laughed bitterly. So I'm collateral. No, he said sharply. You're a threat. She shook her head. I didn't ask for this. I know. Then protect me, she said. He held her gaze. I can't, he said. Not completely. The honesty hurt more than a lie would have. Then I need to leave, Elara said. He nodded once. I'll have the car. No, she said. I'll walk. Elara. I need air, she said. I need to remember who I am outside this room. She reached for the door. Behind her, Martin said, if you walk away now, Lydia will win. She paused. Then let her, Elara said. I've been losing my whole life. She left. The consequences came faster than she expected. 2 days later, Maribel called again. This time, she didn't bother pretending. We're letting you go, she said. Elara stared at the desk. Why? Maribel looked uncomfortable. There were concerns. About your associations. Elara's stomach dropped. You're firing me because I attended a charity event? Maribel didn't answer. Because a billionaire invited me? Elara pressed. Maribel sighed. This world has rules, Elara. You don't get to cross lines and expect no reaction. Elara stood slowly. Who complained? Maribel's eyes flicked away. That was answer enough. That night, Elara sat alone in her apartment, jobless, phone silent, bills spread across the table like accusations. Her mother slept in the next room, breathing shallow and uneven. Elara stared at the wall. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She did something worse. She went numb. Across the city, Martin learned the truth. He stood in his office, phone pressed to his ear, expression dark. She was fired, his head of operations said. Indirect pressure. Nothing traceable. Martin closed his eyes. Lydia. He ended the call and stared out at the skyline. For the first time, the cost of his hesitation became clear. He had dragged Elara into a war she didn't know she was fighting. And Lydia had drawn first blood. Elara didn't tell Martin she'd been fired. Not that night. Not the next morning. Not when he texted, "Are you okay?" She stared at the message for a long time before placing her phone face down on the table. Because if she told him, it would become his problem. And she had already seen what happened when powerful people decided to solve things for her. She wouldn't be pitied. She wouldn't be rescued. If she was going to fall, she would feel every inch of it. The days blurred. She woke early out of habit, even though there was nowhere to go. Made coffee she barely drank. Sat at the small kitchen table while her mother slept, staring at job listings that all seemed to require something she didn't have: experience, connections, the right kind of body. She applied anyway. No responses. By the fourth day, the electricity warning came. By the sixth, the pharmacy refused to refill her mother's prescription without payment. Elara stood at the counter, card shaking in her hand as the cashier shook her head apologetically. "I'm sorry." Elara nodded. "I understand." She walked out with nothing. In the street, she leaned against the brick wall and closed her eyes. This was the real humiliation. Not laughter in a ballroom. This. Her phone rang that night. Martin. She let it ring twice before answering. "Hey," she said, voice carefully neutral. "Where have you been?" he asked. "I've been trying to reach you." "I've been busy." "With what?" She looked at the empty apartment. The unpaid bills. The quiet. "Living," she said. A pause. "Elara," he said slowly. "Something's wrong." She almost laughed. "No," she said. "Something's just honest now." Did Lydia? "Don't say her name," Elara snapped, sharper than she intended. Silence fell between them. "I lost my job," she said finally. Martin inhaled sharply. "When? Does it matter?" "Yes." "Then yesterday," she lied. Another silence. "I'm sorry," he said. She closed her eyes. "No, you're not. You're angry." "Yes," he admitted. "At myself." "That doesn't help me," she said. "I can fix this." There it was. The thing she'd been dreading. "No," Elara said immediately. "Let me help." "I don't need help," she said. "I need my life back." "You didn't lose your life," Martin said. "You lost a job." She laughed, then soft, broken. "You really don't hear yourself." He went quiet. "My mother needs medication," she said. "My rent is overdue." "I don't have savings, Martin. I don't have a safety net or a family trust or a boardroom to fall into." "I know," he said. Which is why you think money fixes everything," she cut in. "It doesn't. It just makes the damage quieter." She hung up. Her hands shook afterward. Her chest burned. She hated that part of her wanted him to call back. 2 nights later, the knock came. Sharp. Insistent. Elara froze. Another knock. She stood slowly, heart pounding, and opened the door. Lydia Crane stood in the hallway. No mask. No pretense. She wore a coat that probably cost more than Elara's monthly expenses. Her hair was perfect. Her expression calm. "I hope I'm not interrupting," Lydia said. Elara's stomach dropped. "How did you get my address?" Lydia smiled faintly. "I asked." "Get out," Elara said. "May I come in?" Lydia asked, already stepping forward. Elara blocked her. "No." Lydia looked past her into the apartment. Took in the worn furniture, the dim lighting, the visible struggle. Pity flickered in her eyes. That was worse than contempt. Martin didn't tell you, did he? Lydia said. Elara's jaw clenched. Tell me what? That he and I are still entangled, Lydia said. Legally. Elara felt cold. You said it was over. Lydia laughed softly. I said he ended it. That doesn't mean the consequences vanished. What are you doing here? Elara demanded. Lydia's gaze hardened. Cleaning up. She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. Take this, she said, holding it out. And walk away. Elara didn't touch it. What is it? She asked. Enough, Lydia said. For your mother's care. For your rent. For a fresh start somewhere else. Elara stared at the envelope like it might burn her. And what do you want in return? She asked. Lydia tilted her head. Disappear. Elara laughed. You think this is about jealousy? No, Lydia said calmly. This is about control. Elara looked at her. Really looked. You're afraid he loves me, she said. Lydia's eyes darkened. I'm afraid he thinks he does. That's worse, Elara said. Lydia stepped closer. You don't belong in his world. Elara's voice shook, but it didn't break. Neither do you anymore. Lydia slapped the envelope against Elara's chest. Take it, she hissed. Or I make sure this gets worse. Elara shoved it back. Get out. You're already drowning, Lydia said. I'm offering you air. No, Elara said. You're offering silence. Lydia's smile vanished. Very well, she said. Then let's stop pretending this ends kindly. She turned and walked away. Elara closed the door and slid down against it, breath coming fast. This wasn't over. It had never been over. The next blow landed the following morning. A letter. Not a bill. A legal notice. Vale Holdings letterhead. Elara read it 3 times before it made sense. Eviction proceedings. Her landlord had sold the building. The new owners wanted renovations. Immediate vacancy. She sank onto the couch, paper shaking in her hands. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just sat there, staring at the wall, feeling something inside her finally give way. When Martin found out, it was too late. He stormed into Lydia's office without knocking, fury radiating off him. You went to her, he said. Lydia looked up from her desk, unbothered. I warned you. You threatened her, Martin said. I offered her mercy. You tried to buy her silence. I tried to protect what we built, Lydia snapped. From a woman who doesn't understand the cost of standing next to you. Martin leaned forward, hands on her desk. You're hurting her. Lydia met his gaze. Then stop caring. Something shifted in his eyes. No, he said quietly. You've already done enough. He straightened. This ends now. Lydia laughed. You don't get to decide that alone. I do, he said. Because I'm done being afraid of you. She stood slowly. If you choose her, she said, you lose everything we built together. Martin didn't hesitate. Then I lose it. Elara packed that night. 2 suitcases. A box of memories she couldn't throw away. Her mother watched from the bed, eyes filled with worry. Where are we going? She asked. Elara forced a smile. Somewhere better. She didn't know if it was true. As she closed the door behind them, Elara felt the full weight of what had been taken. Her job. Her home. Her safety. All because she existed in the wrong body. Loved the wrong man. Refused to disappear. Something inside her hardened. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was war. They moved into a motel on the edge of the city. It smelled like damp carpet and old smoke, no matter how many times Elara wiped the surfaces down. The walls were thin. Too thin. Every cough from the next room bled through. Every argument. Every television left on too loud. Her mother didn't complain. That was what hurt the most. I'm sorry, Elara said the first night as she helped her onto the bed. Her mother squeezed her hand. You're doing your best. Elara turned away so her mother wouldn't see her face. Martin didn't know where she was. She had blocked his number after packing the last box. Not out of anger, but because if she heard his voice again, she might collapse into him and let him take control. And she couldn't afford that. Not anymore. She spent her days walking, dropping off resumes, sitting in waiting rooms, smiling through rejection. At night, She lay awake listening to the hum of traffic outside the motel window, replaying Lydia's words. Disappear. The word followed her everywhere. The first call from the bank came a week later. Then the second. Then the third. Elara stopped answering. She sold what little jewelry she had left. Took cash jobs cleaning houses where the owners avoided looking at her. Where they left instructions on the counter instead of speaking to her directly. She cleaned until her hands cracked. Still, it wasn't enough. The breaking point came on a Thursday afternoon. Her mother collapsed in the motel bathroom. Elara heard the thud and dropped the towels she was folding, heart slamming into her ribs. She found her mother on the floor, breathing shallow, lips pale. "Mom," Elara whispered, shaking her gently. "Mom, wake up." No response. She called an ambulance with shaking fingers. At the hospital, she sat in a plastic chair while doctors spoke in clipped, careful tones. Medication lapse, one said. Stress. Dehydration. Elara nodded numbly. When they asked about insurance, she said nothing. Because there was nothing to say. She saw Martin that night. Not because she went looking. Because he had been looking for her. She stepped out of the hospital into the cool night air, exhaustion weighing her down, when she heard her name. Elara. She froze. He stood near the entrance, tie loosened, jacket slung over his arm. He looked wrecked. Dark circles under his eyes. Jaw tight with restraint. "You can't just disappear," he said quietly. She turned slowly. "I can." "I did." "I've been trying to find you," he said. "Your phone." "Blocked," she said. "I know," he replied. They stood there, the hospital doors sliding open and shut behind them, the smell of antiseptic heavy in the air. "How's your mother?" he asked. Elara swallowed. "She's stable." He nodded, relief flashing across his face. "You should have told me," he said. She laughed bitterly. "So you could fix it?" "So I could stand with you," he said. She looked at him then, really looked. "You did this," she said. The words landed like a slap. "I didn't mean to." "But you did," she interrupted. "Your world did. Your power. Your ex-fiancé. Your silence." His shoulders sagged. "I never wanted you hurt." "Intentions don't undo damage," she said. A long pause. "I ended everything with Lydia," Martin said. "Completely. Legally. Publicly." Elara's chest tightened. "Too late." "I chose you," he said. "No," she said softly. "You chose yourself." Finally. He flinched. "I can help now," he said. "Let me." She shook her head. "If you help me now, it proves her right." "Who?" he asked, though he knew. "That I was just something you could buy your way out of guilt with," Elara said. "I don't see you that way." "But she does," Elara replied. "And so does everyone else watching." He stepped closer. "I don't care what they think." "I do," Elara said. "Because I have to live here after you walk back into your tower." That hurt him. She saw it. But she didn't stop. "You want to save me," she continued. "But I don't want to be saved. I want justice." He searched her face. "What does that look like to you?" She hesitated. "I don't know yet," she admitted. "But I know this, if I let you shield me, I'll disappear." She turned to leave. "Elara," Martin said. "This won't end quietly." She paused, hand on the door. "I know," she said. "That's the point." She walked back inside. The next morning, Lydia Crane watched the news in her penthouse. A Vail Holdings acquisition had fallen through overnight. Not catastrophic, but noticeable. Her phone rang. She answered calmly. "Yes, he's moving against you," her lawyer said. Lydia smiled. "I expected that. He's cutting ties. Restructuring. The board is uneasy." "Let them be," Lydia said. "They'll choose stability." "And if he doesn't back down?" Lydia's smile faded. "Then I remind him what he stands to lose." She hung up and stared out at the city. Elara Moore had lasted longer than expected. But everyone broke eventually. Elara didn't sleep that night. She sat by her mother's bedside, watching the slow rise and fall of her chest. She thought about the gala. The laughter. The envelope. The eviction notice. She thought about the hospital room months ago, about the man who had looked at her like she mattered before he knew her name. And she understood something then. This wasn't just about love. It was about power. And power didn't give up without consequences. Elara reached for her phone. Unblocked Martin's number. She typed a message. If I do this, it will cost you. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally, the message came. I know. She closed her eyes. The storm was coming. Elara didn't ask Martin for money. She asked him for something far more dangerous. Tell me everything, she said. They sat in a quiet corner of a nearly empty cafe, the kind that stayed open too late and asked no questions. Her mother was resting at a friend's apartment for the night. Elara needed space to think. Martin leaned back, studying her face. You're serious, he said. Yes. Once you hear this, he warned, you can't unhear it. I already can't sleep, she replied. Let's not pretend ignorance is safer. He nodded. And then he started talking. He told her about Lydia's role at Vale Holdings, how she'd positioned herself as indispensable years ago, how she'd brokered deals quietly and ruthlessly, how she'd kept leverage like other people kept savings. She knows where bodies are buried, Martin said. Metaphorically. And literally? Elara asked. He didn't smile. She's careful, he said. But not clean. Elara listened without interrupting, fingers wrapped tightly around her mug as if grounding herself. She didn't react outwardly. No gasps. No shock. Just absorption. And the board, she asked when he finished. They're afraid of instability, Martin said. Lydia sells herself as stability. Elara nodded slowly. That's the weakness, she said. Martin frowned. Explain. She looks untouchable because everyone thinks she's holding things together, Elara said. If they see her as the threat instead. Martin stared at her. She met his gaze steadily. You said you couldn't protect me, she continued. I don't need protection. I need truth. He hesitated. This could destroy you. She smiled faintly. I've already been destroyed. This is just direction. He exhaled. Okay, he said. Then we do this carefully. We. The word mattered. They didn't meet again for a week. Not because the plan stalled, but because Elara needed time to become someone else. Not colder. Clearer. She found temporary work through an old contact, back-of-house logistics for a non-profit event. No glamour. No attention. Exactly what she needed. She learned who attended which events. Who spoke to whom. Who avoided whom. She listened. She watched. And slowly, the pieces aligned. Lydia Crane's power wasn't just in what she knew. It was in what she controlled quietly. Donations redirected. Contracts steered. Silence purchased. And she had grown sloppy. Because she had never expected Elara Moore to matter. The opportunity came disguised as an invitation. Another gala. Another charity. Another room full of people who believed themselves untouchable. Lydia would be there. Martin would be there. And so would the press. Elara stood in front of the mirror the night of the event, smoothing the fabric of her dress. It was not expensive. It didn't need to be. It fit her. That was enough. She didn't try to make herself smaller this time. She breathed in. You don't owe anyone softness, she whispered to her reflection. Her reflection didn't argue. The room fell into a hush when she entered. Not laughter this time. Recognition. Whispers still followed her, but they sounded different now. Curious. Uneasy. Martin spotted her immediately. Their eyes met across the room. He didn't smile. He nodded. She moved through the crowd with intention, stopping only when she reached Lydia. Lydia turned, eyes narrowing slightly before smoothing into a smile. Elara, she said. I wondered when you'd resurface. Elara returned the smile. I don't disappear easily. Lydia's gaze flicked to the press nearby. Brave of you. No, Elara said quietly. Necessary. She stepped past Lydia and took a glass of champagne from a passing tray. Then she waited. The announcement came midway through the evening. Martin took the stage. The room stilled. Thank you for being here, he began. Tonight is about generosity, transparency, and accountability. Lydia's posture stiffened almost imperceptibly. Elara felt her pulse steady. This organization exists because of trust, Martin continued. And trust requires honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Over the past year, Martin said, I've become aware of internal actions that compromise that trust. Lydia's smile vanished. Martin didn't look at her. Funds redirected without disclosure. Influence exerted without oversight. Power used without consequence. The room buzzed now. Elara stepped forward. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. A screen behind Martin flickered to life. Documents. Emails. Transfers. Evidence. Gasps filled the room. Lydia stood slowly. This is outrageous, she said loudly. This is a personal vendetta. Martin finally looked at her. No, he said. It's an audit. Security moved subtly. The press surged forward. Lydia's eyes found Elara's across the room. Rage burned there. And fear. Elara met her gaze without flinching. This wasn't revenge dressed as cruelty. This was consequence. The fallout was immediate. Board members whispered urgently. Phones came out. The narrative shifted in real time. Lydia was escorted out, not arrested, not humiliated theatrically. Just removed. Which was worse. Elara stood perfectly still as the room recalibrated around her. She felt calm. Martin joined her moments later. It's done, he said quietly. No, Elara replied. It's begun. He studied her. Are you okay? She nodded. I am now. They stood together as cameras flashed, as whispers rewrote themselves. This time, no one laughed. The proposal didn't come that night. It came weeks later. After settlements. After resignations. After silence. After Elara had found a new apartment. A new job. A new sense of ground beneath her feet. Martin didn't kneel in private. He waited. Until another event. Another room. Another crowd. This time, Elara walked in beside him. Not behind. Not apologizing. When he took the stage again, the room leaned forward. Elara Moore, Martin said, voice steady. Once walked into a room where she was laughed at. A murmur. She was made small, he continued. Not because she lacked worth, but because others feared it. Elara's throat tightened. She taught me what courage looks like when there's no applause, Martin said. What love costs when it isn't convenient. He turned to her. And then he knelt. Gasps. Silence. Cameras flashing. Elara, he said, will you join me in writing the next chapter of our lives by marrying me? The room held its breath. Elara didn't answer right away. She looked around. At the faces that once judged her. At the power that once crushed her. At the man who had learned to stand beside her, not in front. Yes, she said and kissed him. Not loudly, but clearly. The applause was thunderous. If you've stayed this long, like the video. Subscribe for stories that don't flinch. And comment, she won, if you felt every step of this journey. Because this wasn't a fairy tale. It was survival with consequences. Until next time, this is StoryVerse TV.